What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Prince Easy coming at you again once more as usual. I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you in this fine day that we're having, right? And of course, before we get to the slides, I want to issue a copyright disclaimer for the copywritten material that's going to be viewed in this here video, right? So, yeah, as usual. This video is not going to cater to a very particular subject, but rather plethora of subjects. That's what they say, right? So yeah, let's dive into it, right? And of course, speaking of diving, this would be the deep end, right? This would be the deep end. And of course, we can do a whole study about this, but they know exactly what they're talking about, right? And of course, they want to confuse people by throwing people off using geography while they pull. Let me show you some, right? So here from Acts 27:41, right, where the two seas meet, right? Well, here is the reed, right? And falling into place where two seas meet, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart stuck fast and remained immovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. Okay, now we have had a read from the scripture, right? And let's study what we just read, right? First, let's begin by how do they interpret this whole thing, right, as in quotation over there where the two seas meet, because that's a very important and very unique and very specific description of a location, right? So, detail on the grounding, right? This is what they're saying. And of course, at the end of every description are the so-called sources or references where they got their answers from, right? The location: the ship struck a submerged reef, sandbar, or tongue of land where converging currents or open sea channels meet, traditionally associated with the coast of Malta. Okay, there is where the bamboozlement begins. And I know I'm being watched with people who are very keen and cannot be easily bamboozled by language, right? Because we have talked about the importance of language, right? So pertaining to the location, does that description that is given by the so-called Associate of Biblical Studies, I don't know, is that an accurate description of what we have just read, brothers and sisters, right? And what's even worse, they use the word tradition, right? This is a natural phenomenon. It has nothing to do with tradition, right? It has nothing to do with tradition. They tell you it's tradition is because they want to bamboozle you, right? They want to bamboozle you. They want to confuse you by giving you false descriptions, right? This is a natural phenomenon. What does tradition have to do with it? Why? Because they want to control the interpretation, right? This is all information control. They want to control the interpretation of what the two seas meet, right? And the description of the so-called where the two seas meet, what they given us is that they probably a submerged reef, right? They struck a submerged reef like a coral reef, a sandbar, or a tongue of land. This is what fits, or rather, if I tell you to describe what it probably means when they say the two seas meet, this is what you'll tell me. You'll tell me maybe it's a coral reef, maybe it's a sandbar, maybe it's a tongue of land. This is the description that you would give me, and you'd consider this satisfactory, and even going far as to say you are calling this traditionally, right? This has nothing to do with tradition, but they're going to use that because, again, faith, traditions, right? And religion, of course, most important, right? Ancient Melita, right? So, and then they go into describing the damage and, of course, the outcomes, right? But that's not important, right? That's not important. I did a simple search, right? Where seas meet, right? Where seas meet. Remember, they have given us Malta, right? Why? Because that, coupled with the entirety conspiracy of the whole so-called Middle East, they have perpetuated the movement of the Holy Land from Southern Africa to the so-called Middle East and started killing people, right? If they know for sure where that location was, they wouldn't be looking at other places like Uganda and other places like, right? They wouldn't be doing so. So this has nothing to do with the Holy Land, right? It has everything to do with the identity of the true Israelites, right? So let's circle back to it, right? You can look at the search bar and what I wrote, where the seas meet, where and it is very specific here, two seas, right? So it's a proper description here, brothers and sisters, right? Right, so do not let anybody confuse you, right? We're talking about geography here, right? We're talking about a natural phenomenon, right? And talking about traditions and submerged reef, a sandbar or a tongue of land is not enough. It's not adequate, and they know it, right? So, and again, upon a little Google search, you'll know that this is actually a very unique and very particular phenomenon, right? And like I said, I like to emphasize the two, right? The two seas, okay? Global convergence points where two different bodies of water touch, right? Such as the Cape of Ugas in South Africa, Atlantic and the Indian Ocean, right? And of course we have the other one, right, which is in Greenland in Denmark, right? That did not fit the narrative, right? It can definitely not be in Africa, okay? Especially South Africa, too far from the from the Middle East, okay? So indeed it is pointing to Southern Africa because it is definitely not talking about Denmark, okay? The Holy Land was never in Denmark, okay? I'm not saying that they won't come up with that conspiracy down the line, but right, if they move enough artifacts over there to be discovered in quotation, then probably. Okay, so yes, indeed, in the coasts of the southern Africa, right, which is in the state as per the prophecy, right? There is a location where the two seas meet, and there is also a place where famously, right, this location is infamous for shipwrecks because of the geography of the location, right? So again, they move some words, right? They take south and then they put north in its stead, just to confuse people, but right? But I want you to be the judge, right? Because the description is clear, and you have to decide what Act 2741 is talking about, right? Is it talking about submerged reef, or a sandbar, or a tongue of land, or is it talking about this natural phenomenon where literally the two seas meet? So yeah, I'm gonna leave that, because don't hear these people talking about Cape Independence and this and that, okay? Well, for you synagogue of Satan believers, I'm gonna tell you this, right? You find yourself ratting around in these areas, we're gonna put hands on you, like in a bad way. I hope that is clear, right? Go play with the, I don't know, the Argentinians or anything like that, but nah, not with us. Well, the more I hear about the so-called new information coming out pertaining to this case, the crazier it gets, right? The crazier it gets, right? At one point, they're talking about exploding mics. The next second, it is evolving into a whole grandiose conspiracy, which even lessens the probability of what actually happened. You know, they are running amok in these platforms, right? And this is just a warning to Jimmy Dore over here, right? Do not let your channel be used as a campaign platform, right? Anybody who wants to quote unquote campaign or things of alike, you have to ponder them with enough questions to test their intelligence and their problem solving skills. I think that would be adequate, rather than having people throwing out their accolades and their history and thinking that they're deserving of being in positions of power. You know, I've seen it happen. I don't want your platform to become that, right? And the other thing is things like this, right? The story is evolving, right? You might think that you are evolving with it and it's coherent, right? But me, being a touch and go person pertaining to this story, is getting absurd, right? The last time I saw, right, was this guy on a rooftop, which they said apparently the footage was 4K or some, performing a army crawl headed towards the building's edge with what it looks like, importantly, what it looks like to be a bag within it containing a weapon that would enable him to do that. So what do I suggest, right? Even what Candace is doing, right, with all of these debates. So you're having a debate about how Charlie died or why. What exactly are you debating? It's crazy. All I'm saying is you might be hurt, right? Give it time. The truth will come out, right? But now they're just throwing everything and hoping stuff sticks, right? And they know for a fact that you would cling to anything that looks like a ray of sunshine in the dark tunnel of understanding, right? So, yeah. I almost forgot about the flotilla thing. How long ago was that? 2.5, you say? Quite interesting symbolism, right? Just fraternities, right? This is where these secret societies go out there to recruit, right? Just like the other case that I saw, right? These college students running a drug trafficking operation on a flat with their so-called I don't know what to call them, these brotherhoods, fraternities, that is. Yeah, that's just what they gave people to consume after everything blew up in their face. But I believe it's much deeper and people should look into that, right? These drugs are just like the surface, you know. Hmm? 46 Squadron, Gideon, refueling aircraft, huh? Where are the AWACS at? Because I'm gonna begin with them if you continue playing like this. Well, as usual, a video from this channel right there, right? And let's talk about the US imperialism, right? Antenor Furman argued that surrendering control of the harbor would compromise Haiti's sovereignty and independence. In an attempt to apply pressure, the United States dispatched several warships to Haitian waters, but President Hippolyte and Antenor Furman stood firm. The rejection sparked outrage in parts of American press. The New York Times ran headlines such as "The Haitian Broken Promise" and accused the Haitian government of ingratitude towards the United States. Haitian Broken Promise, unwilling now to cede the mole St. Nicholas, Minister Furman playing Admiral charade against Minister Douglas. Of course, they sent a nigger to talk to niggers, as they do, right? It's a theme. It's a thing in the politics of race, right? And the perfect tool are, of course, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, which is unfortunate. And of course, they need to be careful. right? The latter regard advantages of the concession. Well, why would they, right? From the video you can look it up yourself, right? So apparently the Americans helped this guy win and take the presidency, right? And in turn he promised that he would provide, right, the port for them to establish their military presence in Haiti, right? Let's have a read. It's gonna be a thing in this video, right? On August 17, 1915, 5 days following the election of Monsieur Philippe, President of the Senate, the President of the Republic, Lausanne was besieged in its turn by the American troops. The commander of the warship Eagle, anchored offshore from Lausanne, went to notify Charlemagne Pellat, I don't know Frenchman, representative of the president, head of the district armed forces, and responsible for the local citizenry lives, okay, that he thought to occupy the site with 100 American troops who were to arrive from Port-au-Prince by trains and were to be installed around the station at the entrance to Lausanne, right? Lausanne, and I don't know, man. The American naval commander also demanded the right to enter the town. The Haitian officer refused to surrender the town to him, maintaining he only received orders from the Haitian president. He would, as necessary, oppose force with force. The American commander of the troops who arrived by train asked Charlemagne to lodge his troops in the palace of the government. This effrontery and was categorically refused by Charlemagne. The latter had no orders to receive a group of individuals lacking both claim and qualification. Right? Charlemagne, I'm gonna read these names until it's finished. Launched a second attack against the capital in Saint-Plateau. Hinche is in the same month of October, and in the 15th, in fact, at 9:45 p.m., 5 days after his 33rd birthday, right? There it goes. Masonry. Okay? It's quite simple, right? Find the character, look at the portraits that they have of the guy. Does he have a hand hidden behind a coat? I guarantee you he does, right? So of course, on the 33rd birthday, almost 1 year to the day, that's how coincidental, right? They want to make everything look, right? Providence, divine providence, right? To the day after the first attack on the night of October 10th and 11th, right? They do love their Octobers, right? 1917, which was caused for his imprisonment. The second attack did not produce extraordinary results, but as Gilead reported, it worried the American commander. The chief rebels in the hand of the Americans were executed, pure and simple. Okay, who are these chief rebels? Well, they are like some particular individuals who claim to represent certain tribes in the AES, for instance, or even in the Congo, and they use this to wage war, but in reality they're all about the Benjamins, if you catch my drift. Several members of the Pellat family were pitilessly massacred under one pretext or another. His firstborn brother Saul, mentioned above, his cousin Emmanuel, okay, were killed. The occupying army duplicated the pogroms and terror utilized 100 years before the infamous Captain General Rochambeau. If you know, you know, right? This is a demon in human clothing, right? In the vain attempt to conquer us, right? To conquer Europe, not Europe, Haiti, right? So of course, if they use this word, then knowing what Rochambeau done did in Haiti, it's plain and simple. I think I done mentioned it earlier today, right? Steal, kill, destroy, right? The only thing that is missing from that is basically rape. Everything, from animals to young children to men to women, nothing is safe, right? If you have a hole, tap in it, even if it's a doorknob. Marines, this is a famous reputation, right? Marines in Haiti since 1915 revolt restored order, right? Restored order in Haiti after killing of President Sam, crushing new rebellion in 1919. Born ahead pro-American, right? Our official practically carry on government. 15 of republics, 25 presidential driven out. Bono succeeded proposal for future, one lived to old age. And of course, the barbarians that were responsible for crushing said rebellion, right, the call for independence from the Haitians, they were honored. It was an honorable thing, worthy of medals. Right? Freaking cowards, man. Since 1920, my nigga. Look at them. They're back at it again. Right? This is consistency. This is what I'm saying. The only thing that is not consistency is us. We keep falling for the rope-a-dope every time. Right? So what do we say here? NATO ready to respond to potential Iranian strike on US targets in Europe. Let that sink in. US targets in Europe. This is what an official. You are no official. You need to shut the hell up. Okay? You just need to say US targets in Europe, full stop. You are not an official. Right? You're a freaking nobody. And you finna understand that, unfortunately. Right? C-SPAN. Why I captured this slide here only for the comments. You need to look at the comments. Literally, just go on your YouTube, search up this footage here, and look at the comments. So you know that the majority of people in America, they don't really care. As long as everything that happens, right, as long as the American policy does not affect them and their lives directly, they could care less. That's the reality. Right? Contempt. They don't like you. Full stop. No amount of assimilation, right? You can't even say you have not very well assimilated to all you know is that society. So it's just contempt, right? Started with the pilots and the shaving, and now it's this. It's just every right. Besides, there's nothing to be proud of anyway. You should just shut the hell up whether these people take you out of their crimes. Just stay quiet. This is Polish Prime Minister. Germany should not prosecute Nord Stream sabotage suspects. Okay, this idiot here, I don't know how he came to power, but right, this is what the Polish people can produce. Okay, European Pravda, citing TVP World, an international news channel operated by Poland's public broadcaster. Okay, Germany should certainly not persecute those in a situation where their country has been attacked. Take one action or another. Okay, first of all, pump your brake first and foremost. Okay, pump your brakes. So what? Are you trying to establish that you already know who attacked them? Right? So what? Are you saying that the Ukrainians are the ones responsible for this whole ordeal? Okay. So he has given us up to this point, just with one sentence, right? He has given us who done did it and why. Okay? Germany should certainly not persecute those in a situation where their country has been attacked. Take one action or another. Okay, so the Ukrainians did it in response to military target, right? I will not change my mind here, and I believe that those who built this pipeline should be ashamed, not those who disabled it, right? This is the world that we're living in, right? Where black is white and white is black, right? Evil is rewarded. No wonder evil perpetrates, because it is rewarded, right? He said this, right, expecting us to receive it as idiots, right? And of course he's gonna get his Scooby snack, and he's gonna be well fed, you know, as if he has time to feed on that Scooby snack, right? Or even the digestion, right? EU pledges support for anti-corruption effort after meeting heads of Ukrainian anti-corruption agency, right? This is that leverage that these people keep pulling from time to time, right? I remember the last time they talk about this supposed anti-corruption. It's crazy, because it is there not to deal with corruption, but to serve as a lever for when the homosexual superstar president, right, who is on cocaine, talk about playing playing piano with what? Right? This is their seriousness, right? People would vote for a very famous person just because they are famous, right? Not because they have policy or intelligence or anything. Okay, right? And I heard that people around Zelensky got arrested. So yeah, we're gonna see what is gonna come out of this. So Germany plans a 12 billion euros missile program to deter Putin, right? Internal Defense Ministry documents says plans for a new long-range strike arsenal ranges from cheap cruise missiles to tomahawks and future hypersonic weapons. All of this to deter Putin. Okay, Europeans? Yeah. They say the goal is to allow German forces to strike far into the rear of the area of an adversary and maintain the ability to respond with conventional weapons below the nuclear threshold. The plan has 4 parts. with the first weapons due as early as next year, and the most advanced security systems built jointly with the UK and planned for the middle of the next decade. Okay. Okay, of course the video is from Sebastian. Right, every time you see that background over there, just so know the video is from the guy. They say the goal, right, is to strike far into the adversary below the nuclear threshold. Okay, and of course the Canadians are talking about dollar for dollar. So yeah, of course, the politics of race, right? They have a black presenter and of course a black terrorist talking on state media. And of course from the brother Trill Black, right? And this is from the video The Wartime Forgot, right? Shawayo is the secret hope of every independent chief who feels a desire that his own color should prevail, and it will not be until this power, right, talking about the Zulu state, is destroyed that they will submit to the rule of civilization. Okay, the sooner the roots of evil that I consider to be Zulu power and military organization is dealt with, the easier our task will be. What is their task and what do they do, brothers and sisters? We're going to do it again. We're going to repeat it. What do they do? Kill, steal, destroy, and rape anything with a hole. Whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun and they have not, right? That is the Maxim gun. Okay, so yeah, this is what the black man said back then, right? I have not gone over the seas to look for the white man, yet they have come into my country, and I would not be surprised if they took away our wives and cattle and crops and land. What shall I do, right? I have nothing against the white man, and I cannot tell why they come to me. What shall I do, right? Welcome. We're finna do them dirty, right? Before they get into taking our wives and cattle and crops and land. Before they get to that. And this is what happened, right? KwaZulu Natal, Zululand, right? Before my ancestors from my mother's side had to flee under constant siege from these barbarians to end up in East Africa, chased from Jerusalem. Of course, they had their beliefs. And of course, I didn't even know this, but this was the end of the Napoleon bloodline. Yeah, that Napoleon, right? He wreaked, their family just wreaked havoc from Haiti to Mali. Everybody knows their scourge, right? So yeah, as updates go, you tell me, how's everything going, brothers and sisters? You tell me, right? I'm just here to inform you and collect information from here and there, right? We usually do these talks, right? But at the end of the video, I want you to have the ability to tell what is the direction of the world, right? If you see a person spending $12 billion just to kill a man, you know, it's crazy. So anyway, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there. Prince Easy signing out. Love you. Bye.